Hello. So, two bits of business before jumping in. First, just to make sure that you know, because of technology, for some reason, there's a setting somewhere that I can't seem to change, such that I don't get notifications if people give comments, give replies to this video in replay. So if you're watching this in a replay and you type something and you want me to be sure to see it, you need to tag me, just so you know. The other thing is, right before I started this video, our dear cat downstairs started his growling. He's fine. He just sometimes gets lost downstairs. Every now and then we have to call up to him saying, "We're upstairs, Growl Tiger," and then he'll go, "Oh," and then he runs upstairs and then is with us, and then he meanders downstairs and kind of sits and then looks around and starts growling. So he's he's a very special cat. So you might hear his sounds in the background. So I wanted to share a piece of experience I've encountered over the last day. It speaks to some of the things I was referring to yesterday, but indirectly, directly. So a couple weeks ago, or at some point earlier, I have a bad sense of length of time if I don't look, but at some point in this video series, I was playing with a type of perspectival shift that has to do with, okay, so the whole point of this whole video series is changing something about how I show up, making it so that when I'm interacting with an audience, when I am trying to offer what I have to bring, I'm not bringing a manipulative tone. I'm not trying to force a perspective. Part of this is an incentive thing. I don't want to encourage an audience where I have to force things. And I don't want the result of having people who believe what I'm saying or listen to what I have to say because I'm charismatic and because I've pressed it and I've made good points and they're sort of entranced while listening to me and then sort of stumble off and go, whatever. The kinds of things that I would love to share, that I want to put out into the world, I can see exactly how potent it is for some transformational opportunities. If I could wave my magic wand, what I would love to see happen, and what I want to talk about today speaks to this impulse. This is part of the challenge. What I would really love to see, is a kind of shift that would allow us to be really vividly present and excited. And to really think there's an opportunity that delights me as a possibility for the future. And for a possibility of being. There's a lot of struggles of being human that we don't actually need to have. They're pretty universal, but we don't need them. But if I offer them with the sense of, I know better how to live your life, or I know better how to live some people's lives, there's something funny that gets mixed in. So a lot of the tone that I've had in bringing this, in showing up, rather. I haven't been trying so much to teach in this whole series, this 100 Days of Visibility, but just trying to show up and be with a clean essence, a clean kind of frequency, and allow that to show up. But a couple of weeks, I think, ago, I had, like, this funny thought experiment had popped into mind. It's very much mind. Like if you watch yesterday's video, I do mean in the internal computer. Like, broop, here's a simulation. And when I enter it, there's a fascinating shift that I experience. So the usual way that I play with this thought experiment is, what if I'm actually basically in heaven? What if everything is perfect and blissful and wonderful? And the only reason I see it otherwise is because I'm projecting. And with all these people screaming about suffering, maybe what's going on is I am adding the thing of suffering is bad. And if I weren't adding that, it would be fine. And I want to emphasize what the spirit of this simulation is a claim about truth. I mean, I don't mean it's watching my mind trying to edit a lot here. Obviously, if you sort of mentally and emotionally, if you psychotically check out of experiencing anything bad and operating in a fantasy world that's very pleasant, of course, the internal experience is going to be very pleasant. The point of the thought experiment is not, what if I were to do that move? The question is, what if in fact that, like a move like that, is actually a movement toward truth? What if the truth is everything is fine? And everyone is doing exactly the most perfect thing for them to create the ideal version of their lives. Sort of add some nuance, like maybe everybody is a soul that has entered a body for a plan and they're having an awesome time, even if their conscious belief is that they're not, because the point was to experience this whole scenario where there's this conscious belief and etc. I don't mean to assert a particular view. There's like a cluster of different perspectives that can land on this, but it's just a holding. What if everything is fine? The one thing that means is that if I'm getting a little sucked into my mind, particularly since yesterday, just as an aside, since yesterday when I went over this material about clearly seeing the distinction between me and my mind, it lit up more in my experience, more so than it has before. And I've been continuously experiencing the gap between me and my mind. And it feels relieving to sort of pay attention to that gap and sort of breathe into it. Like I can, even more clearly than I could before, see the mind as a tool. And I'm less and less inclined to confuse myself with its programs. So, but I notice there's still a lot of habits. Again, you can watch the eyes to see when I'm using the program. So, when I make that kind of shift to everything is fine, everyone is doing perfectly, there are no serious problems. There's an adventure. It's sort of like entered adventure world, but everything's okay. Almost like it's designed, if I sort of pretend like that a little bit. There are two things that pop up very immediately. I tried playing with this after I made that video, and I was really struck by something. One is that whenever I would see any problemness in the world, my attention would much more readily go to, what in me is this hooking? And there's a big difference between recognizing, oh, I don't like this and I want to change it, versus I don't like this and I need to change it. And it's not just the difference between want versus need. There's an impulsivity. How mechanistic is my response? How automatic? Did this scenario just stir energies in my body and then rev a ready-to-go program in my mind, which creates this cycle, and then I'm just mechanically dealing with this situation? That's basically what getting triggered is about, what getting activated is about. If I'm doing that, then I'm not contributing anything new. I'm only contributing whatever that program will do. Where did the program come from? There are lots of possibilities, but very rarely is it that I, the awakened consciousness at the center of this being, decided to code it this way and am now running it. It's more like I've taken a passive back seat for long enough that others' programs have come into my mind and are now running. This is sort of the average of a whole bunch of different programs running in my system. So the automaticity isn't what I want. So having the opportunity to notice, oh, I notice terrible things in the world. There's this pandemic that's going on. And it's like there's this weirdness about how we are currently going through a narrative arc that is almost identical to what we went through 12 months ago, where here's the UK virus, and it looks insanely more infectious, and it looks like it may be hitting people of all ages. Is that true? I don't know. I keep having this chant, all information is crap, which is a reminder that almost all the information sources I have are coming through the noise of the mimetic war, the ongoing information war, the global multipolar information war. So I can't trust basically any of the information, no matter how clear it seems. So I don't know. But we're in a similar situation about 6 months ago, or 12 months ago, and there's similar reactions. Oh, the UK virus isn't going to be that big of a deal. We're already taking measures to handle it. We're rolling out vaccines. We weren't talking about vaccines a year ago, but it's the same deal. And so I'm looking at this and I feel, oh, this is scary. Oh, look at it. Like, there are going to be lots of people are going to die. And I'm sort of theatricizing a part of me that sort of that gets hooked. It's going, oh, is there a problem? What do we do? Do we need to bunker away in our house for like 6 months? Maybe we can avoid everything. And there's this kind of anxiety that revs up. And one thing that's become incredibly obvious to me, immensely obvious, this is obvious like, oh, I have fingers and I can feel them when I pay attention. It's that kind of obvious. It's not just the logic makes sense. It's, oh, I'm staring at the machine and when I turn this crank, that gear rotates. It's very, very immediate. The quality of my experience of my life reflects exactly the kinds of energies that I am in the habit of, or habitually or readily occur as, revving up on their own. The kinds of things that get hooked. Basically the gut level programs, which is different from the software in the mind in terms of what I was talking about yesterday. That inner computer has almost no power to cause reflection in the world. This is a major place where I find myself disagreeing with the law of attraction stuff. Aside from the standard required skeptical thing of, this does not agree with scientific models, therefore it is wrong. And lots of things didn't agree with scientific models that turned out to be true. I'm not very impressed. Anyway, that aside, one of the practical things that I keep running into with the law of attraction, with law of attraction communities, is this emphasis on what you think about resonates. Thoughts are things. We'll sometimes get the thing about the emotion, but it's still an emotion usually stimulated by thoughts. So think happy thoughts. Now I'm feeling happy, which is very different than the habit set of how the belly raises the energies. How inclined am I to feel victimized? If I am very super inclined, then my environment reflects back all these ways that I am victimized. There's a very mechanical reason for it. You don't need some kind of spiritual thing about vibrations syncing up or entrainment or anything like that. It's irrelevant. Those are proposed mechanisms. But you can derive this principle from a whole bunch of different paradigms, which means that the principle is paradigm general. So I noticed this kind of anxiety about this second virus, this mutation. And the way that there are two different issues. One is, what do I want to do about it? But I don't have access to this, not in a sane way, until I address the, oh my God, is there a problem? Do we have to bunker down? Or is there a way we can get vaccines sooner? Are vaccines dangerous here? I don't know. Everything is confusing. All information is crap. What do I even do with this? So So there's a very natural move that looking at it going, it's all perfect. Everything, if I just imagine I am in heaven, I am in absolute blissful perfection. And if I can't see it, that is a fact about me, not about it. Now that's again a thought experiment. It's an idea, but it's a useful use of mind. What I keep finding is when I do that shift, when I sort of live in that possibility, and I look at the whole thing with the UK virus, the fear that I feel when I look at the thought immediately reflects back to, oh, I'm not seeing the beauty of this. Not just the silver lining, but like the way where I look at this and I go, oh, this is awful. My world is awful. My world is dangerous. I'm unsafe. It's like regrounding. What's going on in me? How can I dissolve these hooks? Not as a thought, but as a looking, going down instead of going up. So this kind of move I find to be very powerful for engendering what Albert Ellis, who is the father of rational emotive behavioral therapy, which in turn, as far as I can tell, is the prototype for basically all cognitive therapies, like cognitive behavioral therapy. And they all, as far as I can tell, stem from grandfather Albert Ellis, who in turn got most of his ideas from the Stoics. Right. So Albert Ellis said that what he would really like everybody to get is 3 types of acceptance: self-acceptance, other acceptance, and reality acceptance. And that if you can get to acceptance of everything as it is, then nothing can bother you because you're accepting the truth. It's very reminiscent of Byron Katie's material when she's talking about the work that she has a book. This is my first exposure to her. It was her book, Loving What Is. Can you be in love with this as it is? And because it's here, you might as well love it, right? It's not a terribly great argument. Like, well, well, this woman is here. I think I will love her. Why? Well, she's here. Like it's kind of a funniness to the logic. So says the mind. But there's a deep truth to it that has to do with. It's not so much about preferring the current experience over any other. That's relative acceptance. Absolute acceptance, unconditional approval of this moment. Eckhart Tolle talks about the same thing. Saying, oh, the ego brings in all these judgments. Oh, I don't like this seat. This seat isn't quite comfortable. And if I just move myself over around, but this movement, I'm not finding the right place. This is awful. This moment is awful. As well, what if you just weren't doing those judgments? Then there would just be some sensations. And you might even have a preference for a different sensation. And all of that would be here, and you would be fine. The power of now. So all of these converge on a very simple thing, that this thought experiment, oh, what if I'm in heaven? What if everything is absolutely perfect and the only reason it looks differently is because I'm bringing up the energies of hell and projecting them? It's just a thought experiment to access this same thing, which is, if I argue with reality, reality will win. So how about I agree with reality? How about I enjoy reality? It doesn't mean I don't want to change it in certain ways. But if I put the change first, the need to change first, then I'm stuck in a kind of misery, and in practice it doesn't work. In practice, I'm stuck being miserable. I keep recreating my misery. So, that gets me pretty quickly to reality acceptance. Truth acceptance. Oh, this virus is coming. Maybe. the evidence looks very strong that the UK virus is here, and as a culture we're ignoring it, and in about a month we're going to be pretty overwhelmed with it. Here we are. And that brings me to a place of equanimity where I can orient to it. And we actually came up with some pretty good plans once I sort of centered in, instead of trying to create the drama going, oh no, this is terrible, we need to, but here's, yes, it's difficult, and here's some logic. Let me rev this energy into the mind, where the mind just responds to the energy. It figures out how to come up with details that match the energy. So if I'm freaking out and being victimized by the world, then all my mind can do is come up with ways that I can be victimized, and how I can defend against it. But I'm defending against it in this scared way, but if I took a breath and I oriented and I went, oh, well, maybe this is all wonderful. I'm just learning how to perceive it better. It then occurred to me, oh, the only meaningful gap in our quarantine procedures is the need to go grocery shopping. And I just remembered, hey, isn't there grocery delivery like Instacart? Turns out, yes. In fact, it turns out that Instacart goes to Costco, which is one of the main places my parents thought we wouldn't be able to get grocery delivery. I'm thinking, okay, why not? There's a kind of clarity about how to create the experience that I want when I've cleaned out the energies that are creating the experience that I don't want, when I actually work with the generator. I realize these videos systematically can't see this. Each time I'm reaching down, I'm actually tapping around my belly button. Because that's where I actually experience that upsurging from. It's from way, way low. Very low. I don't know how universal that is. I think it's common. It's common for that welling up to happen. Definitely from the body to the head for almost everybody who are able to be in touch with their bodies. So of Ellis's three things, that gets to reality acceptance. Self-acceptance, other acceptance, reality acceptance. With other acceptance, this is also part of what I touched on a couple weeks ago, of recognizing, oh, how do I keep getting hooked with, oh, these people, they need my advice. No, they don't need my advice. I'm infantilizing them. All right, well, how can I give them this advice and help them without viewing them as needing rescuing? And eventually I make this shift to, maybe they don't need anything from me. Maybe they're fine. Okay, I can let go of that. And I've been focusing for quite some time on how do I let go of the rescuer energy. Any of the victim triangle energy, but the rescuer energy in particular. Can I offer in joy instead of offering to rescue people who therefore are implicitly incompetent, incapable? And I realized, and this clicked in particular, I don't think I articulated it this way a couple weeks ago, but it really clicked for me yesterday of, oh, when it comes to actually respecting another person's sovereignty, it can't just mean catching the impulse to rescue them or to victim triangle at them in general. By the way, if you don't know what I mean when I say victim triangle, just look up victim triangle, or look up Karpmann's triangle. I think I have that spelled out in the description that's attached to this video. It's absolutely something that I think is worth knowing about. It's a useful tool in the background, a useful mental tool. But it can't just be about avoiding, like stopping, doing the post-processing on this emotional impulse when it arises. It seems to me that if I actually respected others' sovereignty, if others are fully sovereign, if they're actually fully capable human beings, and I respect that down to my core, what that would mean is I have to view what they are doing as chosen and sane for them. So, this again comes back to, oh, maybe everyone is doing everything perfectly. Everyone is absolutely mastering their lives in exactly the way they want to. And sure, maybe I have some piece of information they would like, and maybe they would live better if I were to give it to them. But that doesn't mean them not having this information means that their lives are inadequate or poor with respect to what they want. There's a sense of, on a deeper level, if I actually respect their capacity to choose their lives, to live their lives, or that their lives, they have no choice, there's no free will, and this is just what the machine looks like. but more the former. The former is a lot easier to lean into for me. Then like that, it just means that there's nothing for me to do. There might be room for joy, but there isn't a necessity to it. There's an arc about compassion, but I see Gordon Young pops in. Hello. He says, might be relevant to this discussion regarding the triangle. Quote, unconditional love is being present with someone without adding to their burden, nor trying to pick up anything that is theirs to carry, end quote. I think I heard it from Jordan Hall. Yeah, that is really good and succinct. Thank you. That's beautiful. So one thing I noticed in taking this unconditional love view towards others, which like it has a very different quality from the kind of like romantic love. Like it's very much, oh, let me be really present with this. Let me witness this being who is living their lives. There's a kind of like the perfection of what they're doing brings a sort of admiration from me. Even if it's, wow, you were really fucking that project up there. There's kind of an admiration that arises about how they are. This is a little difficult to articulate for me. I don't have a crisp model for this. This is just what I experience. There's a recognition of their deeper humanity that just emerges naturally from me actually respecting their sovereignty. Because it's not coming from a desire to fix or to pick up what's theirs. I'm not demanding that they be some other way, that they acknowledge my hurts. I'm not insisting that they're messing up their lives and that I'm going to bring in the influence that will cause them to stop messing it up or anything like that. It's just, oh. It's like watching an angel do angelic work. And I might find it offensive, I might get hooked, but that's about me, it's not about them. If I can see that, if I can imagine what they're doing is perfect, not as an abstract thing, but to lean into the feeling, the lived experience of that, then a kind of joy in their being shows up. And if I can manage not to get hooked, if I can manage not to get sucked in with emotional weirdness or manipulative games, drama triangle type stuff, then I can engage with them in a way that is mutually pleasing. It's not my job to please them. I can just engage with them in a way that I enjoy. And part of my enjoyment includes my experience of their joys. There's a natural reciprocity that happens. But none of that is strategized. I'm just present. That's it. And then if I can see a place where, oh, and here's a place where we can increase awareness. Here's a place where we can bring in some kindness. Oh, it looks like you need a Band-Aid. Here, I have a Band-Aid. If I can do that from a place that has nothing to do with there being something wrong with them not having had the Band-Aid before and now I'm fixing it, but instead there's just a naturality to it. It's very clean and it's very kind. And I think the other person can feel it very readily. There's a sense of, oh, you look like you got scraped up really badly there. I have a bandage, would you like one? Part and parcel to that is if they go, no, how dare you offer me a bandage? I can go, oh, okay, you don't want the bandage. All right. Not because I'm suppressing the reaction that arises from me, but because if I can actually see the perfection with which they're living their life, even their condemnation of me is absolutely perfect for where they are. And if I get hooked, that's about me. It's me projecting hell on my experience. They're offering something beautiful and perfect. And it's sort of up to me to see it. Again, that's a thought experiment, definitely of the mind, but I still find it very helpful. So that goes through the whole reality acceptance and other acceptance. But I noticed yesterday there was a particular thing that snapped together where it just suddenly dawned on me, why don't I extend this to self-acceptance? What happens if, because I've been viewing this as everything is fine, but I'm fucking it up by projecting hell on things, and this sometimes hooks with other people, and then I'm caught in this miserable loop. How do I get out of this? Am I messing things up? Well, I can't mess things up because everything else is perfect, so am I the only error? I wasn't actually consciously thinking of that thought experiment like this, but I noticed that there was a bit of an energy like that, a bit of victim energy. So catching that, noticing it, and then going, what if, rather than as a sort of trivial platitude or acknowledgement, but as a deep perception, I see, oh, I am actually doing literally the best that it is possible for me to do. Yeah, I have work to do. I have sort of divine spiritual work to do. There's clearing out all these hooks, clearing my karma, so to speak, if we want to use that metaphor. Cultivating greater compassion, really living this life and being present to it, really savoring each of these moments. That feels like my work and my joy, but my work very much. But instead of having this background of, and maybe I'm screwing it up, how do I do a good job? I'm just noticing, oh, I am perfect. By that, it's important to hear the tone of this, not I'm perfect. That's the ego. That's the ego doing an isolated analysis of itself, trying to bolster up its defense against truth. What I'm talking about is this a recognition that in the same way that I can see everyone and everything outside of me as perfect, I'm recognizing there's no outside of me, inside of me barrier where suddenly inside of me imperfections are possible, as though my private little will can defy the intent of God, metaphorically speaking. I'm just recognizing, oh, in the same way that I can look at that person and 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 go, oh, each of them are doing perfectly. They are exactly doing the work. I can look at myself and go, I am exactly doing this perfectly. Even the little judgments that show up, even the worries, oh my God, am I screwing up? It's perfect. Then I notice that same compassion that would arise for other people, that does arise for other people when I remember this, and it sort of washes through me and it washes a layer deeper and it opens my heart up a little bit more. I notice this reflecting on myself, a kind of self-compassion. I know there's a whole study thing about, a whole research area about self-compassion and its various powers. I don't know if I'm talking about the same thing or not. There's a way where I'm finding myself just reinventing a lot of different things because I'm trying to build a system. I'm trying to build a user's manual for existence. At least the kind of user's manual that I would have wanted. So in seeing what I am doing as perfect, one of the things that happens for me is a reversal of what I have sometimes called metacognitive storms. This is, oh man, I'm screwing up. Oh shoot, now I'm criticizing myself about screwing up. This is making things worse. Oh dang, now I'm criticizing that. Oh no, what do I do? I'm like, how do I get out of this loop? I'm doing a metacognitive storm. Oh no, I don't know how to deal with metacognitive storms. It's like the curse of the fast mind. And find ways of just stacking layer upon layer of misery. What I find is that by bringing in this energy, this is like the purpose of the thought experiment is not to analyze. It is to summon an energetic way of orienting to my experience. so that my way of orienting to my mind is different. When that happens, I discover that the compassion that arises from below, but from the chest more, like the compassion, the kindness that I want to bring to myself, results in there's a slowing down of the metacognitive storm, and then just the last layer just fades away. And then another layer fades away, peels off. I've been finding that as I pay attention to this, as I anchor in this kind of orientation, what I recognize now is something that the Enneagram of Holy Ideas, which is sort of a non-dual teaching that that the personality typing system of the Enneagram was partially based on. The Enneagram of Holy Ideas would refer to this as holy perfection, which is not, it's a non-dual perception. It's a recognition of not that there is an ideal and this and what we are encountering matches the ideal. It is a recognition that what it means for something to be ideal is that it is this, which is the only thing anything can be. Absolute, unconditional approval and acceptance of now, including my own difficulties with being able to accept it. So that's a lot of what I've been working with and experiencing over the last day or so. So just playing with this and recognizing, oh, I can breathe a little bit more freely and I can feel this deepening. It feels like I keep trying to build this bridge between the mental and spiritual worlds, because I think that a lot more can be clearly articulated and explained and a pathway drawn. I think that this is a lot more possible than has been traditional. And it's important to be careful because there are ways of describing things in detail that the mind locks down and runs away with. Left hemispheric lockdown, my mother's arm type stuff, if you've been watching my previous videos. But there totally is a bridge that I think can be high fidelity that we as a species could really use right now. And I'm noticing I have a very well-built bridge on the mental side. I could detail this in a lot of nuance. On the spiritual side, I feel like this is building that. I'm getting some sense of what are the movements in the body and in relationship to the energetics that move toward the mind in a way that helps with this bridge. And then there's the question of that keystone. Like what's in that little keystone there? I have a guess. I think it has to do with the nature of free will, the direct experience of free will, not the philosophy of it. But that's a little outside of my perceptive range yet. We'll see how long it remains like that. I bet I'll have a crystal clear answer by the time I'm done with this 100 Days of Visibility. So I guess today's is shorter. I feel pretty complete. That was what I wanted to convey, this exploration of holy perfection, this exploration of total self-acceptance, other acceptance, world acceptance. And that's it. Thank you for listening.